how to apply for Social Security disability benefits, and how to get approved. Hi, my name is 𝗦𝗲𝗂𝗏𝗂. I'm a licensed insurance agent, and today I interviewed an expert in the field who used to work behind the scenes at the Social Security Administration processing these very claims. The insight she brings to this topic is second to none. It's even better than the attorneys who work trying to advocate for people who are in the process of applying for Social Security benefits, because she knows what it takes to get approved, and her private service is available for people. She specializes in helping veterans to navigate through the process of the Social Security disability benefit system. So here is the question and answer period with Lisa, answering the questions about how to apply for and get approved for Social Security disability benefits. Thanks for joining me, Lisa. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
I'm fascinated by your business model because, like mine, you exist only to help people, and I think that's awesome. But you do it in a completely different realm that sometimes actually overlaps with what we do in Medicare, but you're on the very forefront of that with people who are disabled, unable to work, and they're seeking some help by that. It's such a confusing, frustrating process. We've heard it thousands of times in here with people trying to go through that. How do you help people navigate through it, and who is your target audience?
Let me answer the second question first. So although I can help anybody, I was what they call a claims specialist generalist at Social Security. So that means that I was trained, let me get a little fancy here, I was trained on Title II and Title 16 of the Social Security Act. So Title II, among other things, would involve SSDI, otherwise known as Social Security Disability. That's the disability program for working people. So they paid in FICA taxes, they became disabled, and they potentially can file for Social Security Disability. It's an insurance program, essentially. The other program that I'm also trained on is SSI, which is Supplemental Security Income. That's a federal welfare program, and that's for folks who are either disabled of any age, which includes children, or elderly folks, 65 and up. But it's a means-tested program, meaning very low income, very little resources. And then, of course, you know, there's some other qualifications, but basically that's what that program is. So my target audience, as I said, I can help anybody, but my target audience is veterans. The reason behind that really is I have a son who was a combat veteran, Marine Corps. So that was kind of the impetus, and I got very involved in veteran groups, veteran issues, and it's just really where my passion is. Veterans, a lot of veterans, when they become disabled, do file at the VA. If it's service connected, they attempt to get VA benefits, which is a very difficult, challenging, long process for a lot of them. So those folks, if they can't work, and some of them, a lot of them can't, due to their disabling conditions, are also going to be looking at potentially filing for Social Security disability, which means taking on yet another federal agency that they don't understand the process, they don't understand what to do, and there's a lot of myths and misconceptions out there about Social Security disability. So that's where I come in. And I'm not sure if I answered all of your questions.
Absolutely did. So you primarily help just veterans to navigate through the process. And what is that like? I mean, is there a typical client that you have that, you know, what is a typical process and how does that go through? I mean, is it typically for PTSD, that kind of thing, or a psychological issue with most of the people that are coming back from wartime?
There is a lot of that. There's a lot of that, but there also can be significant physical issues. I mean, frankly, war is ugly, and if it's a combat vet, a lot of them have gotten blown up, so to speak. Just the very nature of being in the military is very hard on the body. The training is very difficult. Typically, you'll see things like knee problems, back problems. Tinnitus is very common, which of course is the ringing in the ears, hearing loss, because they're exposed, a lot of them, even just in training. If they don't go to combat, they're still exposed to a lot of loud noise. And then, of course, there's the mental issues, which, finally in 2017, Social Security acknowledged PTSD as a disabling condition. So, yes, I do see a lot of that. I'm missing your
Recognize
volume.
that as a disability? You're kidding me.
Yes. PTSD is now recognized by the Social Security rules, administration, that it's a disabling condition or can be a disabling condition. It depends on the severity.
My gosh. So is there a most common disability among all people that are, your experience before was as an examiner looking at all of everyone coming in to apply for it. Is there a common thread? What is the most common type of disability that a person claims, especially when they're ultimately successful?
You're talking about general public? And
yeah, general public.
There? Okay.
Yeah, anybody.
There really is not a common thing. I would say mental health issues are claimed a lot, but if you think about it, when someone becomes disabled and is no longer able to work, it is extraordinarily challenging from a mental standpoint. I know this because I went through it. I'm disabled retired from Social Security. So, it involves a re-identification of the self, and that re-identification can be very painful. You can see yourself as useless, a non-productive member of society. This is particularly challenging for men because they identify themselves with work. Not to say some women don't too, but a lot of men, their identity is entirely wrapped up in their job. So when they lose their job, even if it's from something physical, they then tend to also be dealing with depression, anxiety, that kind of thing, which ends up, if they're doing it right, ends up getting added to the claim, because in reality that can become crippling as well.
What would you say is the average rate of denial, maybe both in the general population and working with veterans who have a myriad of things that are more, gosh, it's hard to say this, but just from a layman looking at it, you would think that the veteran, especially coming back from a combat zone, would have so many more chances of getting approved, either for the mental anguish, the PTSD, the physical disabilities, loss of limbs, all those kinds of things. Them versus the public on the percentage of people that get denied, at least their first time, would you say, just ballpark guess?
I honestly don't have a figure for that. I have a strong opinion on what goes on, so I can share that with you. I will tell you that generally speaking, this goes for everybody. People don't understand the process.
Right.
And because they don't understand the process, they don't understand what steps they need to take to make sure that the adjudicator, the person making the decision, gets what they need and to make a favorable decision. And one thing that I have noticed when it comes to veterans in particular, this is my group of the ones that get expedited claims processing. So you're talking 100% disabled with the VA veterans get expedited claims processing, for example. That's a group that gets it. Those folks, believe it or not, in my opinion, are at a real disadvantage. It sounds great. They're going to get a faster decision on their claim. But what happens is the medical evidence that's needed to find that, to make a favorable decision doesn't make it into the file, or doesn't make it into the file in time. So part of what I do is train these folks how to get all of their ducks in a row, have everything lined up, and then file. So that we know that the adjudicator has everything that they need. And there are certain follow-ups that need to be done. I've got a bunch of resources that I give them. Listen, do this, this will help your claim, do that, it will help your claim. But a lot of times, well, let me back up and say, in my office, I processed all of the denials, which is thousands of denials in my area. I was the only one in my office who did that. So I had the opportunity to look at a lot of the denials. And again, I saw that much of it was due to the fact that the medical evidence just didn't make it into the file. Because the normal process is you file with Social Security, you give them permission to get your medical records. And technically what happens is the entity, which I'll explain in a second, that makes the decision, it's not Social Security, sends away for your medical records. But again, if the VA doesn't respond quickly, and they don't, or they respond partially, then these folks, are under the gun to make a decision on the claim, and they'll just deny it because they don't have enough information to make a favorable decision. So I know I'm talking a lot, but let me back up a second and say one of the myths about Social Security is that the Social Security Administration makes the decision. They don't. My job, I'm happy to say, as a claims specialist, was actually to help people file the best possible disability claim. Now that was good. That was good for my heart because I wanted to help people. I don't want to deny people. I don't want to be hiding benefits from people. So that was a good thing. Once the claim is filed, same day, in almost all cases, it gets transferred over to Disability Determination Services at the State Department of Labor. So depending on what state you live in, and this speaks to, how long does it take? Some states are busier than others. The decision is actually made there. They have vocational experts, they have doctors, and they make the decision. So that's the case for the first two levels. If you get denied, it's going to go back to the Department of Labor. Different people are going to look at it and a decision is made. If you get denied twice, you're going to go in front of an administrative law judge. Again, this is not Social Security. They're considered a Social Security judge, but it's really not the Social Security Administration making the decision. It just looks that way because we send out the letters.
Wow. What's the most common thing that you see besides what you've already alluded to, which is medical records not ready for full examination or not complete? Beyond that, when there is just a flat denial all the way through, what's the common theme? Why are they denied?
I have to honestly say there are times that claims were denied that I just couldn't figure out why. I'm looking at it thinking, wow, this evidence is in there. This person has been hospitalized repeatedly for mental health issues, suicidal attempts. I just don't understand why they would be denied. So there were some situations like that. I would say that there needs to be a very good understanding of the criteria that Social Security has. And someone can be disabled. You and I would look at them and say, this individual is disabled, and they could not meet the criteria. So I'll just give you an example. This is a really simple example. I have a friend, he lost his leg, one of his legs in Afghanistan. He got blown up by an IED. He also has PTSD, likely has a TBI. I've just never asked him that question. And he works. He works for the DOD. I imagine they give him some accommodation. And he would not qualify for Social Security disability, even though all of us would agree he's disabled because he's able to work. So that's a very simple answer. But for people that can't work and get denied, aside from the medical evidence, it's simply the connection isn't being made. So, you could say, your doctor could say, well, you have depression. Your doctor could say you have diabetes. Your doctor could say you have high blood pressure. But if it's not documented how severe those symptoms are, it's not going, and how they impact your ability to function in life, and therefore, at least in some cases, how you could function in a job. So I'll just give you an example. Let's say you have insomnia, depression, PTSD, okay? And your doctor diagnoses you with that and doesn't say a whole lot more about it. Well, there are people with depression, insomnia, and PTSD who can work. It's not a problem. But if it's documented in the file that, even if you take sleep medication, maybe you can sleep, but then the next day you're non-functional because the side effects of the medication are such that they make you unable to concentrate, unable to focus, unable to drive, maybe, unable to get up in the morning. and your PTSD is so severe that you end up in physical conflict, let's say, with other human beings if you have to be around them. I'm giving you an extreme case. If that type of documentation is in the file, okay, now we're looking at maybe we're going to meet the criteria for severity. So probably that's the other main reason.
So how does it typically work when a person is going to try to go through the process and navigate it on their own, but then they see, you know, the billboards down the interstate of, I can help you get your disability claim, come to me, the lawyer. How are the lawyers paid, and how much do they take out of what's probably a small figure anyway when there's a successful finding in that person's favor? How does that typically work?
Well, the way that it works is that they are paid on the back end. So, you know, on the positive side, the claimant doesn't have to lay anything out up front. But potentially, and very often, because these claims can go on for a while, or the claimant waited to file and they're going to have at least a year's worth of back benefits because they became disabled a while ago, because Social Security will pay a year, you know, at minimum a year back if the person was disabled that far back. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but basically there could be back benefits. So typically lawyers will get $6,000. That's the law. It's $6,000 or 25%, whichever is less. So typically these lawyers are getting $6,000 out of someone's back benefits. That's what they get. And it's on the back end. And this is not a criticism of lawyers. This is more a criticism of the way that it's set up, because that's not the lawyer's fault. What that does is, number one, that's a sizable chunk of change. Number two, it doesn't give lawyers any real incentive, unless they're good human beings, to get someone approved right away. Because the longer it goes on, you know, in theory, the back money is accumulating. I don't like that. I want people to get approved as soon as possible, take the stress off of them and get them the money that they need. And why sit there and drag anything out if you can avoid it? So,
what's the shortest time frame you've seen someone go from filing to actually approved, the shortest time?
Oh my goodness. A matter of a couple of days, but those are very special cases. That would be somebody that walked in the door. Let's say, this is only one example, because there's a few different types of conditions that this would apply to. But a good example would be someone walks into the Social Security office, they have stage 4 cancer.
Oh God.
And that cancer is expected to end in death, and probably in not too long of a period of time. If they walk in the door at Social Security with proof that they have stage 4 cancer and imminent death is expected, they're going to get, especially if somebody like me, claim specialist, stays on top of it, they can get approved in a matter of a day or two. Those are terminal cases, and that's just how they're handled. So that's the quickest I've seen. Veterans with expedited claims processing, if everything goes really well, could be 3 months, could be even a little less than that. I can only speak for New Jersey. When I was working in New Jersey, your average claim would be about 6 months, you know, for your average person.
But there are a lot of people that might be watching this that may feel like Social Security disability income is a whole fraudulent underworld where people can just pass around. I've heard this. I've heard people say, you know, they must pass around a book of what to say in front of the doctor, how to act, so you can get a diagnosis and then get the money and never have to work again. How much would you think, have you heard, have you seen people try to game the system and just get out of working because they can just, you know, play along? And how rampant is that, if at all?
I think it's very little, to be honest. And anybody that's coming in and simply saying that they don't feel good, and there is no, I mean, it's tougher with mental, but there's no corroborating with physical. There has to be, you know, tests. There's got to be blood work or MRIs or CAT scans or x-rays to back up what that individual is saying. Pain for Social Security is not a disabling condition in and of itself. So I think it's a little more challenging with the mental, but I will tell you that anybody that wants to come in and game the system for Social Security disability is going to be getting a lot less every month than they could working. I guess, there probably are some people that do that, but then I would question that they probably do have some kind of mental issues.
Right.
So I don't think it's a lot, to be honest. I really don't. And the people that are out mowing their lawns and they're on disability, I'm going to tell you those people probably got approved for mental issues.
Okay. So you and I had a brief conversation online about the fact that how this could really affect even seniors just before going on Social Security income, the retirement part, or even those people that are already on Social Security. How could that affect the senior with the disability aspect of it?
Okay, so as far as your clients are concerned, I'm assuming that you're talking to folks that are nearing 65, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so it used to be that full retirement age was 65. That's been changed. Currently, the people that are retiring right now, full retirement age is 66. It's graduated so that, folks that are younger, it goes all the way up to 67. So disability payments are paid as if you retired at full retirement age. So a disability payment is going to be higher than a retirement payment. So let's say someone retires, as far as Social Security retirement is concerned, at 64. They file online, let's say, for Medicare at 65. They don't go into the office. I believe probably there is a question on that application. I haven't seen the online application asking if they're disabled, but there might not even be that question. So let's say 65 and 2 months, they become disabled. Something happens. They have a severe car accident, something like that. Well, they can file for Social Security disability. Now, let's say they've already been receiving retirement benefits. If they get approved for disability, that's going to be discounted a bit from the full retirement amount. It's like 0.5% for every month that they received retirement benefits. But there's the potential to get a few more dollars every month. And if they didn't file for retirement, there's no reduction. So let's say, they were working, they stopped working at 64, their spouse is still working, they're just relaxing, and they become disabled. Hey, they can go in and file for Social Security disability and get paid at that higher rate. Like if it happened now, it would be the age 66 rate. People can go into, if they create a My Social Security account, and I don't know if you tell your clients to do that, but it's a very good idea for multiple reasons. They can go in and do an estimate of their retirement benefits if they're not getting those yet, and they could do an estimate of their disability benefits as well.
Wow. So you could literally have, and this is what's weird to some of the people in the working world, is you could have someone who retired, because it's not at all based on your need. Is it based, or is it just based on your physical condition, the fact that you're disabled? What I mean is, if someone had saved a considerable amount of money in their 50s, at 60 years old, they retire, they walk away, they're sitting in a hammock in a foreign land somewhere, then they get the information that, something in their past or something in their present could qualify them for disability income. Could they not technically draw the income, even though they had no interest, not only the ability, but they had no interest in going to work whatsoever? They're just lounging around. But that technically possibly could happen, right?
It could happen. I will say there's one other factor in the mix there, and that is that you have to work for 10 years, 40 credits to get retirement. Disability is a little bit different. So for most people, this doesn't apply to real young people, but for most people, the rule is you have to have worked 5 out of the last 10 years in order to be insured for Social Security disability. Now, if you stopped working at 60 and at 64, you became disabled, chances are very good you're still insured for Social Security disability. The way to find that out is very easy. You simply call Social Security and say, can I please have my date last insured for disability? It will either be a date in the past, or it'll be, it wouldn't be today's date, but or it would be a date in the future. At some point, you're going to run out of that. If your work history is far enough back, you're not going to be insured for disability, and therefore you wouldn't be able to file.
I see. Wow. Well, who is your ideal client? Who would be the best person to contact you for help through navigating the process, which obviously can be complex if a person decides to try all this on their own? Who's the best person that should be calling you?
A disabled veteran that can't work.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're talking young, old, age doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter as long as they aren't full retirement age.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Lisa, this is great information. I'm going to put your contact information here with this video so people can reach out to you. Now, do you have a referral partner maybe for someone who's not a disabled veteran, but they need this type of service? Do you have someone that they could possibly go out to?
What type of service do you mean?
Well, navigating through the disability process, but they're not necessarily a veteran at all.
Like I said, I will help non-veterans. It's just that my focus has been veterans.
Okay.
I don't have someone, I really don't, honestly, I don't know anybody else who does what I do, because I have a very, very small consultation fee on the front end, and that's it. I'm not trying to get rich. I'm trying to help people and support myself a little bit. But I don't know anybody that does what I do in the way that I do it, or with the thoroughness that I do it. Even not even a lawyer does that. So I honestly don't know. Well,
you've helped a lot of people. I've seen what people have written about you online. It's quite revealing to the extent that you go through the detail necessary to get it right the first time. And that's really
well, I really care. I really do care. So, and hopefully that comes across to people.
Sure does.
Because I know what it's like to navigate that system. I mean, I saw it on both ends because I had to file myself. So.
And then the other part we didn't talk about is after you've been on disability for 2 years, here's a question I have for you. If they get back disability back a year, and now they're already into their second year, that 2-year clock in which the person's now eligible for Medicare, A and B, that could start much sooner than waiting a full 2 years past the determination date, right?
Right, because it depends on when they became disabled. Okay. So whenever Social Security determines that the month that they're eligible for their first check, and keep in mind that they don't get the check till later because the decision's being made, but whatever month that is, the clock starts ticking for the 24-month Medicare entitlement. And honestly, they should change the law on that because, I don't know why they have to wait for 2 years. That seems crazy.
It doesn't seem to make sense. The law and they've already determined the fact that they need help probably more than anybody, and they can't afford their own in the private marketplace. So really, what are they supposed to do for those 2 years? I guess just Medicaid in most cases if they can't work and they need medical care. It's a sad state of affairs, really, especially for our veterans.
It's bad. I mean, a lot of veterans at least have the VA.
The VA, right.
But some of them don't want to go to the VA. Right. And for the general public, it's a very challenging thing. And those folks with cancer that I was talking about, even if it's not stage 4, they come in to file and they don't even care about the check. They want to know about the health insurance. And I had to sit across from people, and it broke my heart because I had to tell them it's a 24-month waiting period. And they would say to me, I'll be dead by then. So it's not a good scenario, and the law really needs to change. Wow.
Well, my agents and I will be referring people to you nonstop when we come across people that you can potentially help in this way. Lisa, thank you so much for what you do and for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you, Christopher. I do want to say one thing about you and what you do, and that is that at Social Security, we were not trained on Medicare Supplement. plans. And we typically would just refer people, call 1-800-Medicare. And to have somebody like you that is knowledgeable and can have that personal touch of interacting with folks, because it's a very confusing thing. And you know, it can be very overwhelming. So I'm just really happy to know that you exist. And for my people who will be getting Medicare, I'm more than happy to send them over to you because you've done the homework, and that's a great thing because Social Security doesn't help with that.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate it. We'll be talking again real soon.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Christopher. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. Hi, it's Chris Westfall again. I hope you enjoyed that interview. Getting Social Security disability benefits for those people who desperately need them, it's a very important topic and one that can't be taken lightly. It cannot be understated how important it is to get the right advice up front before you even start the process. Otherwise, it could drag on for a year or longer. So my encouragement to you, if you're in this process right now, is to reach out to Lisa or a professional like her, save yourself frustration and time in the process, and let her or someone you trust help you through the process. My name is Christopher Westfall. I specialize in senior benefits like Medicare benefits, and if I can be of service to you in that regard, please reach out. I'd be glad to help you. Thanks for watching.